Hey everyone, geophysicist Stefan Burns here. Interstellar object 3I Atlas is now hurtling through the inner solar system, being within the orbit of Mars, and it is rapidly approaching its perihelion, its closest approach to the sun. And we here on Earth are now blind to 3I Atlas. We can't observe it because of the glare of the sun. We're on the other side of the sun that 3I Atlas is on. That will be exact for us, the superior conjunction of 3I Atlas on October 21st. Its perihelion is October 29th. And so is this a space rock from far outside our solar system? Is it an interstellar comet? Is it perhaps something more than that? Is it technology or maybe even a craft? These are all questions that a lot of people have been exploring and that none of us have answers to, because as an interstellar object, it has been displaying extremely anomalous activity and behavior across the board, flying in so precisely aligned with our ecliptic plane, traveling in so fast, coming in initially about 58 kilometers per second. During perihelion, it's going to be at its fastest at 68 kilometers per second. We think it's the largest interstellar object ever observed based off of the data that we do have. So it's a very large object. Could be 5 kilometers across, could be even maybe 50 kilometers across. Huge. It also has a weird nickel to iron ratio. It started off red, which is a color that you see a lot of objects from interstellar space have, but then it started glowing green. And it has this dusty coma surrounding it that is mostly made up of carbon dioxide, whereas most comets have different compositions of water and carbon dioxide and other elements. And it also has the most extreme negative polarization curve of any object ever observed. So it's hard to call this an interstellar comet when it's defying all definitions of what a comet is. It has this tail that points in the sunward direction. Look at how much is pushing out in front of it. But in general, we don't know what the heck this thing is. And during perihelion, its closest approach to the sun, is that going to trigger significant changes to 3I Atlas? That's a question that we'll explore in this video and many more. Now, before we get into it, if you like this shirt that I'm wearing, Explore the Cosmos Within, and you're wondering what it is, well, this is official channel merch, and I just designed this. I love this shirt. I have both the white and the midnight blue color that came in. On the back, it has the cosmic pyramids as painted by my father this year when he was in a burst of creativity. And well, this is available on the website, earthevolution.com/store. We have a whole bunch of products here, holistic wellness products like our herbal tea blends, our herb coffee. We also have some other shirts and such. But here we have our Cosmos Within t-shirt, and it comes in white and also in blue. As you can see, this is the midnight blue color that I'm wearing. From sizes small all the way to quadruple XL. This is printed to order and shipped directly to you, available to anyone in the United States. So if you want to explore the cosmos within, then you can do that by going to earthevolution.com/store. Check this out. This is linked in the video description. And I also want to mention that this has really nice biogeometry and sacred geometry designed straight into it because of this Fibonacci spiral centering directly over the solar plexus. So it just feels amazing to wear as a result of that. The fact that it's 100% cotton, it has a great fit. For reference, I'm wearing a large. I'm 6 feet tall, just a little bit more than 6 feet. So it seems to run fairly true to size, but pick that up from the website if you're interested. And without further ado, let's get right into it. We'll begin by looking at the position of interstellar object 3I Atlas with this 3D solar system viewer as provided by the Sky Live. This is linked in the video description, so you can play with this yourself if you want to. This is set for today, the 15th of October, and we see it now. It's within the orbit of Mars, so 3I Atlas is well within the inner solar system. And you'll notice that it is very closely aligned with the ecliptic plane of the solar system. All these planets are all basically lined up on the same plane, and well, 3I Atlas is only 5 degrees off that ecliptic plane. So today it's still above, and if we go to the perihelion, which is the 29th of October, we see that it is still above the ecliptic plane, and it slices below it right around when it re-intersects the orbit of Mars. But it's right there effectively on the ecliptic plane, meaning it's being hit by the solar wind. It's embedded within the electromagnetic field that's created by the sun. Specifically, the electric field seems to be very important as it relates to comets and interstellar objects, because that electric field connects everything together within the solar system. And in most places, it's not that strong because there's nothing there. Near the sun, it's very, very strong. And near the planets, you also have these nodal points where the electric field is going to be much stronger. Well, when you have different objects in space, that's necessarily going to affect the electric field and also the magnetic field. A lot of space weather people, they ignore the electric field dynamics of the solar system. And well, we see with comets that they have these very long tails. They can have dust tails, they can have ion tails, they have elemental tails. Right, in space, a lot of that's going to get ionized and become plasma. Now you have an electric field that's much more significant than it would be if it was just empty space. So during the perihelion of 3I Atlas, it's going to be the closest it will get to the sun. That will be about 1.4 astronomical units, about 1.36 to 1.4 astronomical units. And the specific time for this will be 11:55 a.m. Universal Time on the 29th of October. And that's the best time that we will get, because now we can't take any new observations of this interstellar object because it's blocked by the glare of the sun. So if we were to look at it here on the perihelion, right, look at how close it is to the sun. We're not getting any observations of that. If we go back to today, the 15th, we see that it's also blocked by the glare of the sun, and that's going to be the absolute most on the 21st of October when we have a new moon, and this is the superior conjunction of 3I Atlas. And this is what a lot of people are discussing as it relates to this technology or alien attack vector, because being exactly behind the sun, we are going to be completely blind to this object, and that is when perhaps it deploys probes or does something different, pumps the brakes and slows down and changes its orbit. I don't think that's the case personally. It's also a non-zero possibility, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's an object, and I think this story is much more so an energetic story than just a materialistic one of, you know, aliens and technology and the Earth is doomed, that type of deal. But I do think it's very, very interesting. Now, if we go back in time, we first picked up interstellar object 3I Atlas the very beginning of July, and we noticed that it was displaying a lot of activity very early on. You notice that this is the orbit of Jupiter right there. Most comets don't really show any activity until they're closer in, but 3I Atlas started off with this reddish hue, but then all of a sudden it started to turn green as it got closer, and it has a whole bunch of anomalous characteristics. It just keeps defying expectations. Is it going to undergo some sort of new radical change once again during its perihelion when it's the closest, only about 1.36 to 1.4 astronomical units away from sun? That's a distinct possibility. It already has this very large envelope of gas, dust, and plasma surrounding it. Maybe that's going to expand out even more. It's likely to be the case because it's going to be receiving the most radiative influence of its entire trip thus far during this perihelion. And then what will happen afterwards? We won't know. We don't have any good telescopes around Mars or anywhere else in the solar system. I mean, we have like Hubble and all the others around Earth, but we don't have a Hubble, orbiting around Mars to get really good images of 3I Atlas. We're totally blind, and we will continue to be blind probably until about mid-November or December. So we're going to have to wait till then to find out what the heck happened, and also whether it's even going to show up where we expect it to show up. And the other thing to consider with this is the electrodynamics of the solar system. You have this ecliptic plane that all the planets are traveling along, right? You have the sun emitting a solar wind that flows mostly along this ecliptic plane. It spirals out. You also have an electric field that is inwardly flowing like this. It kind of spirals in. Well, the electric field near the sun is very, very strong because the sun is generating the electric field going all the way out to the edge of the heliosphere. In empty space, yeah, there's an electric field, but it's not going to be that strong because it's empty space. There's nothing there to change the normal gradient. But these planets, Earth, Venus, Mars, Mercury, all the different planets, they're like nodes. They influence the electromagnetic field as well. Well, comets, traditional comets, right, they often have these very long, dazzling tails, and those can be dust tails, they can be ion tails, they can be elemental tails, and if something's in space, the light and radiation from the sun is going to ionize some portion of that. And what we see with dust in space is that it accumulates these charges such that it also takes on an electromagnetic nature to it. So space is alive with electromagnetic energy, and that's much, much, much stronger than gravity as it relates to it being a fundamental force. So 3i Atlas being here at the closest approach to the sun is A, going to be the most deeply embedded within the electric field and the solar wind of the sun. Is that going to affect 3i Atlas? And then B, conversely, how will its unique electromagnetic dynamics influence the sun perhaps and the other planets of the inner solar system and the inner solar system overall? That's a good question. Is this going to trigger more solar activity, maybe less solar activity? How is it going to change the electromagnetic dynamics of the inner solar system? That is a very good question, but in general, I think it's going to become a lot more dynamic around this perihelion. I think it's going to be very dynamic around the 21st of October, the superior conjunction, through perihelion, which is the 29th of October, going all the way into November, and then we may start to be able to observe 3i Atlas again middle to late November, because it will be further away now from the glare of the sun. So we are blind as to what's happening with 3i Atlas until then, and we hope that we observe it where it is expected to be in its orbit, and also basically looking the same. But even if that is the case, that doesn't mean that it didn't have an effect on us at an energetic level and perhaps even a conscious level. And I'd like to also spend some time looking at the unique astronomical alignments that take place during the exact perihelion of 3i Atlas, because there is a lot happening and it's really quite profound. There's quite a story that is to be told here, which is interesting because this interstellar object is zoomed in from outer space, yet it makes these very precise synchronistic alignments at key moments in time. So we're looking at a true sky zodiac chart. So this is the actual size and locations of the constellations. This is not a Western tropical chart. This is true sky position. Really, it's an astronomical chart, but you can also use this for archetypal interpretation. And we see the different constellations. You'll notice also we have a Fucus plotted here, the 13th constellation, which does cut through the zodiac. So there are 13 constellations, and we see all these symbols. So for example, this is the symbol of the sun. Here we have the planet Venus. We have Jupiter, Uranus there, asteroid Chiron, dwarf planet Ceres, Neptune, Saturn. We have the moon, we have Pluto, Mercury, and Mars. And while there's a lot happening, you'll right off the bat probably notice this triangle in the chart. And actually there's even a kite formation here too. So you see that we have this sextile arrangement between this group here with Ceres, Neptune, and Saturn to keep it kind of loose. We have this sextile there, 60 degrees to Pluto and the moon, which is then also 60 degrees to Mercury and Mars, which are trine over to this group, and then both of them are 120 degrees trine to Jupiter. So that's one of the big astronomical alignments that's taking place at that time. You would see that whether or not you had plotted 3i Atlas. And I took the exact date and time of the perihelion, which is 11:55 a.m. Universal Time, according to NASA JPL. It's the latest data that we have, and that will be the latest data for this entire stretch because we have no new astronomical measurements of 3i Atlas until probably end of November. But you'll also notice that we have this grand cross that exists in this chart, especially now that I've plotted 3i Atlas. So we have this interstellar object in an opposition to Chiron, which is also almost exactly conjunct the dwarf planet Eris. Keep that in mind. That is very important for this interpretation. And you'll see that we also have Jupiter in an opposition to Pluto there, the moon pretty close to that as well. Altogether, these four form a grand cross. So we have a grand cross and a grand trine active at the same time, which is quite powerful. We also see a kite right here as well. We see Jupiter, Uranus, and Saturn, Neptune, and then we see this is also configured to Mars and Mercury. So a lot happening in the sky with the exact perihelion of 3i Atlas. Now the main story here, and you could probably spend 5 hours talking about this, but the main story as I see it is, okay, where is 3i Atlas? Well, it's in the constellation of Virgo. What's the symbology and archetypal energy of Virgo? Well, Virgo is quite nuanced, but one of the main significations of Virgo is healing. It's all about health and wellness and healing the body. And I find it interesting that while 3i Atlas is in Virgo, it's in this opposition to Chiron, who is the healer in Greek myth. He has the wound that can't be healed, but he's this great wise master who teaches Achilles and is a teacher of many, and he undergoes his own healing journey, and though he can't maybe heal his own wounds completely, he can help others heal their wounds and so on and so forth. So we have 3i Atlas, this interstellar object, in the constellation of healing in opposition to Chiron, which is about healing, and also Chiron is conjunct Eris. Eris is the goddess of discord. She was invited to this wedding with the Greek pantheon, and so she created all this havoc and chaos and discord. That's what she's known. She's a sister to Ares. And here you have the agent of healing in this wound that you can't heal, but it's a tremendous teacher, conjunct this agent of discord. So how is this wound creating discord in your life? If you look at the constellation of Pisces, which is very spiritual, how is it perhaps triggering a spiritual awakening for you? Because this discomfort, this tension is requiring you to go beyond your body, beyond your mind, beyond your emotions to a place that's unassailable, which is your higher spirit. In opposition to 3i Atlas, which is bringing in these interstellar energies and codes that very directly connect to your body, to your emotions, and to how that makes you feel, your day-to-day. Virgo also rules over your day-to-day, your stress levels, your work-life balance, things of this nature. There's also a duality inherent in Virgo. It's very hardworking and likes to be very prim and proper and pure and clean, but Virgo can also be chaotic and messy and all over the place, and sometimes they're not the purest folk out there. They can really be very dualistic. Virgo is also the energy before Libra, and Libra is all about judgment. So Virgo is about getting your house in order and doing everything you can to wrap up loose ends to make sure that you go through this judgment and underworld process as best as possible and as fairly as possible. Because we have Libra here, which is judgment, then Scorpio, and then Ophiuchus, which is this death rebirth process right here. And then you get kind of reborn in some sense as you extend out the other side. The other element to this Grand Cross is Jupiter and Pluto, both agents of power. Jupiter is very expansive, benevolent, brings in more energy, makes everything bigger, inflates it up, adds in this higher spiritual perspective, whereas Pluto is very deep and very powerful and will ask a tremendous amount from you. But if you dig into those depths, you explore the dark cave, that is where you will find the treasure. That's where you will find that inner wealth, which then you can emerge back to the surface with. And here the moon, representative of the body, also could be representative of the emotions, and also could be representative of the people. So in general, the public at large, conjunct Pluto. So there is this powerful death rebirth process that is unfolding around this time, end of October, that is being highlighted here, showing how there's some sort of health concern. This can be mental health, emotional health, physical health, maybe even a spiritual crisis, and it's causing a lot of disruption, unease, perhaps in your life. Also at the societal level, we can talk about this. 3i Atlas is activating that. Jupiter here coming in, expanding the whole energy field of it with a lot of benevolent energy as well, acting very supportively in this trine configuration, participating at the same time in this cross, and then the moon and Pluto there acting as these deep agents of empowerment. So there's a lot to be said here. We do notice that Venus and 3i Atlas are very close to conjunct. During this, Venus is all about harmony and peace and friendships and love and money and relationships. And so there's also this aspect at play too. How is this struggle that's been going on actually present an opportunity? And then how has that been affecting your overall life, who you relate with, and more? We have the sun very close by, of course. It just performed its superior conjunction as viewed from Earth. And so this is also speaking to your consciousness, your solar light, your inner being, and how that fuels your engine, your day to day. If you don't have purpose, then it's definitely a lot harder to wake up in the morning and do your thing. And if you're not connected to your consciousness, then you're more victim to just behavior and programming. So how conscious of you? How often are you exerting free will, or are you just a pawn in some other person or thing's game? All these questions are being posed, but very precise and profound astronomical alignments are unfolding around this time, end of October, and they really go precise during this perihelion because we see just how close to exact this opposition is between 3i Atlas and Chiron and Eris. And this opposition there is also very, very close between Jupiter and Pluto. And the big background influence that goes all the way till February 2026 is the great conjunction of Saturn and Neptune, which is all about dissolving boundaries and structures. That's Neptune applying to Saturn, whereas Saturn, which is the agent of structure and manifestation, is also pooling ideas and things from the imagination land of Neptune and from the liminal realm of Neptune, from the deep ocean, from the subconscious, and manifesting that into new structures and new realities that we can operate within. So this is a very, very, very powerful alignment that is unfolding with 3i Atlas during its perihelion, and I don't expect this to just be a one-day thing. None of these astronomical transits ever are. They are usually a wave, like a bell curve, where there's this buildup to it. We are already in that right now. And then you often see the strongest effects around the peak of that, though there is wiggle room, and then it subsides afterwards. But this is a once-in-a-lifetime transit because of 3i Atlas. And as it zooms through the solar system, it's going to keep moving this way. It will then go conjunct Venus. So this inner transformation that occurs around the perihelion will then move over to your relationships, and people are going to notice a change. And there's also going to be a noticeable change at a societal level if we're interpreting this. And then eventually 3i Atlas will get all the way to Jupiter, and that will occur around March. From a geocentric perspective, right? They're going to get very close together in March. So then 3i Atlas has this retrograde journey all the way from Virgo through Leo, Cancer to Jupiter. And Jupiter will effectively be stationary in the sky when 3i Atlas passes over Jupiter. So Jupiter is a big player in all this. I just touched on this lightly. There was a gentleman on YouTube who made a video exploring the astrology of 3i Atlas. I'll link him in the video description. He did a good job, just like a beginner Western tropical astrology video on this. I'm sure also my friends Pam Gregory and Heather Ensworth will make videos on this, and Dan Waits with World Astrology Report have already made videos on this. All of them have, but I'm sure they will continue to do so. So make sure you check them out if you want more astrology content on 3i Atlas. But this is a quick rundown as to the profound astrology and astronomy, which again, remember 10,000 years ago, even just 2,000 years ago, was one and the same. The profound astrology of 3i Atlas. Now, it's not completely impossible for us to see things that get close to the sun. It depends first off on their brightness and also on the equipment that we use. We have what are known as coronagraphs, which we put this occluding disk over the sun to block out the sun, and then we look at the light on all sides, and we can see solar wind outflows, we see solar storms and coronal mass ejections launch out. And well, here we have our coronagraph view going from the 7th of May to June 23rd in 2024. We see this sequence of cazimis where we have different planets line up with the sun. You see Venus here, very, very bright. There's Uranus, there's Jupiter, and we'll see Mercury race across at the very end there. So we see the planets in the coronagraph. Venus shows up very bright. You notice that Jupiter shows up quite bright. Uranus is basically not able to be seen, just looks kind of like a normal star there. Mercury is quite bright. What determines whether we can see something on the coronagraph is A, its size, B, its distance away from the sun, and C, also its apparent magnitude or its brightness. So we know the apparent magnitudes of the planets. There are some small rhythms to that, but we know the apparent magnitudes of the planets. We also have observations of the brightness of 3i Atlas. Let us see if we're likely to see 3i Atlas in the coronagraph view during that superior conjunction on the 21st and for its overall transit through this viewing window of 32 solar radii. And here we have a very simple graphic showing the apparent magnitude of the different planets as it is right now. There are some very minor fluctuations that these go through because of Earth's rotation around the sun, their own orbits, and so there's this very small fluctuations. But we see that Venus is the brightest, negative 3.89 apparent magnitude at this moment in time. Jupiter, negative 2.21, Mercury, negative 0.22, Saturn is about 1, Mars is 1.5, Uranus, you see that we have this big drop. Uranus is about 5.6 and Neptune is 7.8. So the apparent magnitude right now of interstellar object 3i Atlas is about 12. So it's going to have to brighten significantly for it to be visible on the coronagraph. And that's excluding whether its small size could even make it visible in the first place. It would also have to produce a very big tail. I simply don't think that's the case, but let's check out its light curve data. And here we have the light curve of interstellar object 3i Atlas as provided by Cobbs. This is linked in the video description. We see our first measurements there in July 2025, going all the way up to our last official measurements there in October, because that's when it started to get hit by the glare of the sun. And we did notice that it started to brighten rapidly, but that's as far as we know. And it was actually even below its expected brightness there for a while. Now, did it go back kind of down to this light curve, or did it continue beyond that? That's hard to say. But each jump there is a 2.54 increase in the brightness of an object. So we see that it was effectively following this fit. They have this topping out maybe around 11.5 or so. But you know, it would really have to go dramatically up in brightness for us to be able to see on the coronagraph, because if we're not even able to see really Uranus or Neptune on the coronagraph, even though they have apparent magnitudes which are quite a bit brighter than 11.5, it's going to have to go through multiple brightness jumps to be observed. And I simply just don't think that's going to be the case. I don't think we're going to be able to see it on the coronagraph, but we really will just have to wait and see. There is a possibility. I don't think it's likely, but we do have that ability, at least with the planets. Remember also the planets are very large. We don't know the size of interstellar object 3i Atlas, but it's certainly not the size of Mercury or Venus or Mars or any of the planets. It's quite a bit smaller than that. The upper bound is probably about 50 kilometers for its diameter. So it's almost certainly likely that we are completely blind on 3i Atlas until probably the end of November, beginning of December. The perihelion of interstellar object 3i Atlas is rapidly approaching, and we are going to be completely blind to it, at least as viewed here from Earth, and we have no way, as far as I know, of observing 3i Atlas during that critical time period. Is it going to undergo some significant changes with that complex dusty plasma coma that surrounds it? Who knows? Is it going to influence solar activity? We'll just have to wait and see. Is it going to be completely unfazed and normal and just keep on zooming through? Probably, but we don't know. What I find interesting is look at all the other comets that we have in the inner solar system going out to the orbit of Jupiter here in October, November, and look at how as time continues on, they all seem to pull away from the inner solar system. Now, we've had an ability to observe comets for a while, of course, going back thousands of years with visible comets. So I'm sure that there's a natural rhythm and periodicity to comets in terms of their number, in terms of their inclination and interaction with the solar wind and the electric circuit of the solar system, and also like how close they get to the sun. All that has natural rhythms and fluctuations. But what you see with this video here is that we have all these electromagnetic objects effectively that interact with this system close in October, November, and December, and then going into 2026 and into the middle of that year, they all pull further away. So that, to me, really speaks to how we're looking at a very dynamic time period right now, with 3i Atlas being the star of the show, and then that is going to very likely ease up as all these objects move away from the sun. So Perihelion's coming. That's also a very special time period as it relates to the archetypal energy and information related to 3i Atlas. That is when it's closest to the sun and is the most blessed by that solar presence. That superior conjunction as viewed from Earth could be viewed as a rebirth of any themes attached to 3i Atlas. My personal experience with 3i Atlas is that it has been a messenger from interstellar space that has helped me to come to better understanding of my own spiritual body and also what's occurring within me. It's brought about a tremendous health journey. It's been tremendously healing. I feel so much more enlightened and aware as to what's happening within and also without as a result, because I've had all these synchronistic experiences that line up with key dates with 3i Atlas, from its discovery to what's happening right now and the close approach to Mars, to this superior conjunction that occurs on the 21st. And then another reference point is December 19th is when it'll be the closest to Earth. And that is exactly the winter solstice, so December solstice. So it just seems too coincidental once you look at all these different things to be completely devoid of meaning. And we're just going to have to wait and see how all these dynamics play out. But that is what I have for you on 3i Atlas at this moment in time. I recommend that you maybe just do a little experiment. Take 30 minutes out of your day and get into meditation, perform some deep breathing, and ask to connect to interstellar object 3i Atlas, or connect to the sun, the solar system in general. And you may be surprised what kind of streams in. So there is a cosmos within us. I encourage you to explore it. Again, this is available on the website www.earthevolution.com/store. Please check it out. And I've been your host, Stefan Burns. Thank you all so much for watching. I'm wishing each and every single one of you well. Have an amazing October, November, December, and I'll see you all very soon in the next video.